Hey everyone, and welcome to another deep dive. This time we're tackling New Mindshift Reshape the Future by Brian Solis.
Oh yeah, this one's great.
It really is.
Really digs into how do we make those big changes in our thinking, those mind shifts, to keep up with the world changing so fast.
Exactly. And with everything evolving at warp speed these days, social media, AI, you name it, it really feels like just doing things the old way but better just isn't going to cut it anymore.
You're telling me. It really does feel like we need a whole new approach.
So that's where Solis' book comes in, right?
Yeah, totally. So,
I'm excited to jump in, but before we do,
I'm sure.
I think it would be helpful to, kind of define what we're talking about here.
Yeah, for sure.
What exactly is a mind shift?
Well, Solis really emphasizes this idea of moving away from just reacting to change and instead moving towards anticipating it, even driving it yourself.
I love that. Being proactive instead of reactive.
Exactly. And the best part is it's not some exclusive club or anything.
Yeah. Anyone can do it. It's really about figuring out how to take these big, overwhelming trends and turning them into action.
Oh, I love that.
So anyone can be a change agent,
Okay, I'm hooked already, but I think our listeners might be wondering why should I care? What's in it for me?
Yeah, that's the big question.
What's the point of all this mind shift stuff?
Well, there's this quote from Bill McDermott in the book that I think really nails it. What got us from there to here won't get us from here to where we need to go.
Oh, that's good.
It's like if you were trying to use an old map to navigate a brand new city.
You'd be totally lost.
Totally. So mind shifting is kind of like updating your mental map for how the world really works now.
Okay, no more wandering around lost and confused. I like that. But where do we even begin? How do we make this mind shift happen?
Well, Solis talks about this idea of unleashing the leader within,
Oh, okay.
And I think what he's getting at there is it's not about having a fancy title or anything like that. It's more of a mindset.
Right.
It's about stepping up and taking charge when you see a need for change and being driven by passion, not just politics, you know what I mean?
That's such a good point. It reminds me of that quote from the senior director of innovation at that luxury brand. They said, "My passion is not as a change agent," because that role is more political.
Exactly. And that just emphasizes, that real change comes from people who are genuinely passionate about making a difference.
Absolutely.
So, it's not about waiting for someone else to lead. It's about recognizing that leadership potential in yourself.
So true. So we all have this leader inside us, ready to embrace change.
All good.
But how do we get out of our own way? How do we even know what needs to change? How do we start to see ourselves and the world with fresh eyes?
Okay, well, that's where self-awareness comes in. And Solis points out this kind of crazy statistic that only 10 to 15% of people are truly self-aware.
Wow, that is surprising.
It's a really small number, right?
Right.
And he talks about this research by Tasha Urich, who explains that there are actually two types of self-awareness, internal and external.
Okay, I'm curious, what's the difference between those two?
Well, internal self-awareness is all about how you see yourself. Your values, strengths, weaknesses, all of that.
Right, makes sense.
But then external self-awareness is about how other people see you.
Oh, that's interesting. So it's not enough to just know ourselves. We also need to understand how we come across to others.
Exactly. Imagine you were trying to dance without paying attention to your partner.
Ouch, you'd step on some toes.
You would. It's all about having that awareness of yourself and how you interact with others.
Okay, good analogy. But how do we actually get better at this self-awareness stuff? Because it sounds way easier said than done.
Right. Well, Solis has some great tips. The first one is to actively seek feedback from others.
Even if it's hard to hear.
Even if it's hard to hear. Yeah.
Okay.
Talk to your friends, colleagues, mentors, people you trust.
Right.
And ask them for their honest opinions on how you come across, how you interact with people.
That can be scary.
It can be, but it's so valuable in the long run. And another thing you can do is, start journaling.
Okay, that's a good one.
Not just Dear Diary type stuff,
Yeah.
but really try to dig into your feelings and reactions to situations.
Oh, that's a good idea.
It helps you recognize those patterns in your thinking and behavior.
It's like becoming a detective of your own mind.
Exactly.
So we're becoming more self-aware, but what about all those negative thoughts that always seem to creep in? How do we deal with those, especially when we're trying to embrace change?
Yes. Negativity bias, that's a big one. And Solis explains that it's not just in your head, it actually affects your brain, literally wiring it for more negativity.
Oh no, a vicious cycle.
It really is.
So how do we escape this negativity trap?
Well, Solis suggests a few things. One is to try and replace those negative thoughts with positive affirmations.
Oh, I like that.
Like, instead of saying, I can't do this, try saying, I'm going to figure this out, or I'm capable of learning this.
Oh, I love that. It's like switching from a defeated mindset to a problem-solving one.
Exactly.
Mm.
And another thing is to focus on solutions rather than dwelling on the problems.
Yeah. It's so easy to get stuck in that what's wrong loop.
It really is.
Yeah.
So consciously shifting your focus to what you can actually do about it can make a huge difference.
I like to think of it as choosing to see the glass half full instead of half empty.
I love that. That's the perfect analogy.
So we're banishing negativity.
Yes.
We're becoming more self-aware. What's next on this mind shift journey?
So now we need to explore this idea of cultivating a beginner's mind.
Okay.
So that we can and see all those possibilities with fresh eyes.
Right, because we can get stuck in our routines.
Exactly. We get set in our ways.
Yeah.
And Solis actually uses this really great story
Okay.
about a frog at the bottom of a well.
Oh, yeah, I've heard that one. The frog thinks the well is the whole world.
Right. And it's such a good analogy because it shows how our perspective can be so limited by, what we already know and what we're used to.
Yeah, we get trapped in our own little bubbles.
Exactly. So to really embrace change, we have to be willing to hop out of that well and see the bigger picture,
Okay, I love that visual. But how do we, as adults who think we've seen it all,
Yeah.
actually cultivate this beginner's mind?
Well, I think it starts with approaching new information with a sense of curiosity instead of judgment.
Okay.
Try to remember that feeling when you first learned something new.
Oh, yeah, like the excitement of starting a new hobby or traveling to a new place for the first time.
Exactly. You're open to everything. You're eager to soak it all in.
Yeah, I miss that feeling sometimes.
I know. So try to ask why more often. Challenge your assumptions and actively seek out different perspectives,
Even those we might not agree with.
especially those. Remember, staying stuck in that well just limits your growth.
Time to hop out of that well. Okay, now, Solis also talks about having a growth mindset. Is that connected to this beginner's mind idea?
Absolutely. They totally go hand in hand. So a growth mindset is the belief that you can always learn and develop no matter what.
Right.
It's the opposite of a fixed mindset, where people think their abilities are set in stone.
So instead of saying, I'm just not good at math, someone with a growth mindset would say, I'm not good at math yet, but I can learn.
Perfect example.
Yeah.
And Solis really emphasizes that challenges, even when they're uncomfortable,
Right.
are actually opportunities for growth. It's like working a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it gets.
Oh, I like that.
So embrace those challenges.
Yeah.
See them as a chance to learn and grow.
So it's all about embracing challenges, staying curious, being open to new possibilities. But sometimes it feels like that childlike sense of wonder and excitement about learning kind of fades away as we get older,
You're right, and Solis actually addresses that directly in the book. He includes this really powerful quote from Rachel Carson. She says, "A child's world is fresh and new and beautiful, full of wonder and excitement. Our misfortune, that clear-eyed vision, is dimmed and even lost before we reach adulthood."
Oh, that's so true. As kids, everything is fascinating. We're constantly asking why and exploring.
Exactly, but somewhere along the line, we lose that,
Yeah, life gets in the way.
It does. We get bogged down with responsibilities and routines, and we forget to look at the world with that sense of wonder.
But Solis says we need to rekindle that wonder if we want to see the possibilities that others miss.
Exactly, and he uses Einstein as an example.
Okay.
Einstein's constant curiosity about the universe led to some of the most groundbreaking discoveries in history.
Right. It's inspiring.
It is. So how do we, as busy adults, bring back that sense of wonder?
Yeah, that's the million-dollar question.
It might sound a little silly, but Solis actually suggests making a wonder wall.
A wonder wall.
Yeah, it's like a space where you can put up pictures, quotes, objects,
Yeah.
anything that inspires you, anything that sparks your curiosity, anything that reminds you of the magic in the world.
Oh, I love that. It's like giving yourself permission to be curious and playful again.
Exactly. It's a visual reminder to stay open to new experiences and to keep asking, what if?
I'm feeling more energized already. Okay, so we've talked about self-awareness, conquering negativity, cultivating a beginner's mind, rekindling that sense of wonder.
It's a lot.
It is. But let's get practical for a second.
Okay.
How do we actually decode all the trends that are shaping the future so we can adapt, and become those change agents we talked about earlier?
Right, so that's where things get really interesting. So Amethyst breaks down trends into these different categories based on their impact and lifespan. So first you have fads,
Oh, yeah, those things that are suddenly everywhere and then poof, they're
Yeah,
gone.
exactly. Like, remember fidget spinners?
Oh, yeah. I still find those things around my house.
Right, they're fun, but they don't last.
Yeah.
And then you have micro trends, which stick around a little longer.
Okay.
But they're still pretty short-lived.
Right.
But the ones that really matter are the macro trends. Those are the ones that, like, shape industries and societies.
Oh, okay. Give me an example of a macro trend.
Well, think about social media.
Okay.
What started as a way to connect with friends online
Right.
has totally changed how we communicate, how we get information, even how businesses operate.
Wow, I never thought of it that way, but that's so true. Okay, so what's bigger than a macro trend?
Those would be the mega trends. Those are the massive long-term forces that shape the whole world. Globalization, climate change, technological advancements, stuff like that.
So the mega trends are like those big waves we have to learn to surf, not just the little ripples.
You got it. And Solis gives us some helpful frameworks for figuring out which trends are worth paying attention to.
Oh, that would be helpful.
One is the 2x2 matrix, where you look at a trend and assess its impact on people's behavior and its impact on businesses.
So I could use that to figure out, if a trend is just a blip on the radar or something, that's really going to stick around.
Exactly. It helps you cut through the noise and focus on what really matters.
I like.
And another useful tool is the hype cycle, which helps you understand the different stages a trend goes through.
Oh, like from when it's brand new and everyone's talking about it to when it becomes, mainstream.
Exactly. Imagine there's this new AI tool everyone's excited about. The hype cycle can help you figure out if it's just hype or if it's actually a game changer.
So it's like a roadmap for understanding how a trend evolves over time.
You got it.
This is super helpful. It's like having a crystal ball for the future of trends.
Right.
Okay, so we're getting good at spotting these trends, but how do we actually use that knowledge to make a difference, to drive change?
And that's where the power of storytelling comes in.
Storytelling. Okay, how does that fit in?
Remember how we talked about connecting with people emotionally?
Yes.
Well, stories are the way to do that.
Oh, I see.
It's not just about having the facts and figures. It's about weaving them into a narrative that people can connect with.
So it's not just about the data, it's about the human element.
Exactly. Solis argues that stories make ideas more memorable, more persuasive, and they really drive people to take action.
So instead of just presenting a bunch of statistics about climate change, we need to tell stories that show how it's affecting real people's lives.
Exactly. It's about connecting those trends to the human experience.
Yeah.
Making them relatable and motivating people to do something about it.
Okay, I'm starting to see the power of storytelling, but I'm not exactly a natural-born storyteller.
Oh, I hear you.
Any tips on how to get better at it?
Well, storytelling can definitely feel intimidating, but Solis actually gives some really useful frameworks to help us craft compelling narratives.
Oh, good, because I need all the help I can get.
One that I really like is Pixar's what if technique.
Okay.
It's all about exploring different possibilities and really pushing those creative boundaries.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah. And the most captivating stories often start with that simple question, what if?
So, what if we could create a world where everyone had access to clean water? Or what if we could solve the climate crisis?
Exactly. It opens up so many possibilities. And then to help you structure that narrative, Solis talks about the story spine.
Okay, the story spine. What's that?
It's this really simple but effective framework that guides you through all the key elements of a good story.
Okay.
From setting the scene to introducing the challenge to the rising action, the climax, and finally the resolution.
So it's like you have all the ingredients for a good story, and the story spine is the recipe that shows you how to put them all together.
Exactly. And if you want to tap into those universal themes that really resonate with people,
Oh, yeah.
Solis suggests looking at the hero's journey.
Oh, the hero's journey. I've heard of that.
Yeah, it's a classic storytelling archetype that's been used for centuries, like in ancient myths and even modern movies.
So it's about finding those common threads that connect us all as humans, right?
Exactly. Those shared experiences that we can all relate to.
Okay, I'm feeling a little more confident about this storytelling thing now. But how do I make sure my story is believable? That it actually resonates with people?
That's a great question. Solis really emphasizes authenticity, like drawing on your personal experiences,
Oh, okay.
connecting with your audience's emotions, and not being afraid to be vulnerable.
Right. People can tell when you're being fake.
They can. They want to hear real stories from real people.
So it's about speaking from the heart, not just the head.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And to help you kind of visualize and refine your narrative, Solis talks about storyboarding.
Storyboarding, like what filmmakers use.
Yeah, it's a technique they use to plan out their scenes, but it can be super helpful for anyone who wants to tell a compelling story.
So instead of just having a vague idea floating around in your head, you're actually creating a visual representation of your story.
Exactly. It helps you see the flow of the story, catch any gaps or inconsistencies, and make sure your message comes through clearly. He even uses the example of Airbnb and their project Snow White to show how powerful storyboarding can be.
Oh, wow. So storyboarding isn't just for creative projects, it can be used for business strategy too.
Absolutely. It's all about making those abstract ideas more concrete and bringing them to life.
I'm convinced I need to start storyboarding. Okay, so we've laid the groundwork for Mindshift, we've explored trends, we've even become master storytellers.
We've been busy.
We have. But how do we actually make it all happen? Like, how do we put all this into practice?
Well, Solis reminds us that Mindshift isn't just about thinking differently, it's about taking action. Having that resolve to actually make those changes happen.
Right, it's not enough to just talk about it, we have to walk the walk.
Exactly. It takes effort and determination.
It's like running a marathon. You have to pace yourself, stay hydrated, and push through those moments when you just want to quit.
Perfect analogy. And, most people actually resist change.
That's true.
It's human nature.
Yeah.
But Solis argues that focusing on those early adopters, that significant minority of people who are already open to new ideas,
Right.
that's how you build momentum.
So it's not about trying to convince everyone at once. It's about finding those people who are ready to embrace change and letting them lead the way.
Exactly. It's like a ripple effect, starting with a small group and letting their enthusiasm spread outward.
Oh, I love that. Creating a wave of change, one ripple at a time.
I love it. And to help us craft those persuasive arguments, Solis introduces Aristotle's rhetorical triangle.
Okay, remind me what that is again?
It's logos, ethos, and pathos.
Okay, break those down for me.
So logos is all about logic and reason, like backing up your claims with facts and evidence.
Gotcha.
Ethos is about credibility and trust, establishing yourself as a knowledgeable source.
Makes sense.
And pathos is all about emotion, connecting with your audience on that deeper level and making them care about your message.
So it's like a recipe for effective communication. You need the facts, you need the credibility, and you need that emotional connection to really get people on board.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And ultimately, Solis reminds us that we all have the power to create change by telling compelling stories that resonate with people's hearts and minds.
Wow, this has been an incredible deep dive. I feel like I have a whole new toolkit for navigating this crazy world we live in.
I know, me too.
So to wrap things up, I want to leave our listeners with one final thought. Solis asks this really thought-provoking question in his book. If you could mind shift one thing about your life or work today, what would it be? And what's the first step you can take to make that happen?
That's a great question for everyone to ponder. And as you continue on your own mind shift journey, remember to stay curious, stay open to new possibilities, and never stop learning and growing. The future is out there waiting for you to shape it.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive, and we'll see you next time.